All right, this is the first lesson in a series of online lessons for multimedia theory. So what I thought I'd do is give you a bit of an introduction as to how we're approaching it. I'm repeating some of the things I've already told you, in that these lessons will be recorded and placed online for you to access at any time, and you'll be expected to have watched them and come prepared in our theory lessons. So at this point, I just want to do a bit of an overview. Whenever we're looking at multimedia theory, we've got to remember it this way. We're looking at applying our understanding of tools, materials, processes, and also the impact of the internet on multimedia. So when we're talking about tools, we're talking about software and hardware. Anyone here know the difference between software and hardware? Who can explain it? Yep.
Software is like the actual when you run the computer, and hardware is what you need to make the computer, like the parts.
Good. Yeah, so the answer there was software is what runs in the computer, and hardware is the physical components of the computer. Yeah, that's one way of describing it. The best way of describing software is it's actually applications or programmed instructions for the hardware to run, so how you want it to work. The hardware itself is the physical items that make up a computer, but hardware can also include external devices, and we'll get into that a bit later. When we're talking about materials, we're actually talking about the multimedia files. So when we talk about sound files, animation files, types of text, types of video, that's our materials. That's what we work with. In fact, in multimedia, it's really zeros and ones. It's binary. And the processes, I've given the example of graphics here. The process of actually creating a graphic. How is a graphic created on a computer? And then, of course, the internet. Now, when we're looking at tools, here's our hardware. We have internal hardware, which is the system components. That can include RAM, the CPU, the GPU, storage, and other bits and pieces you'll find in there, such as sound cards. I haven't gone into detail here. This is an overview. Can anyone tell me who, let's see, what the GPU is? I might go for the people looking at their mobile phone instead. And this is now recorded. So, do you know what a GPU is? No? Well, then I suggest you listen. Who can tell me what the GPU is? Yep. Graphics processing unit. Absolutely right. It's called that now. It used to be called a graphics card, but it's now a graphics processing unit. It's almost as if it, as a component, has all the parts of a computer in it as well. So they had to change the name. Then we have the external devices, such as your monitor. There's differences between your monitors. They'll actually affect how a multimedia product will be displayed. Cameras, microphones, scanners, graphics tablets, all of those things are our external hardware devices. When we look at software, we're looking at authoring tools, and they're always media-based in this sense. Animation software, graphics software, etc. We've looked at two of those so far. Software can also be drivers and plugins, but I might come up with that a bit later, so people aren't too worried about that. Or presentation software. With the materials, we look at bitmap as opposed to vector graphics. So there's types of graphics, and you're probably seeing the theory that we've talked about so far practically. Animation, cell-based, path-based, stop-motion, coded, such as physics engines, and behavioral and animations. So we'll get into those a bit later, but even your rollover button animation is a behavioral animation. Sound, analog as opposed to digital, the effects of sample size, sample rate, and compression. All of these are features of sound that we need to keep in mind. Videos, in terms of the format, the resolution, frame rates, interlaced, whoops, that should have a T in there, as opposed to progressive, and of course text. This is one that's forgotten quite a lot. A lot of people use a default text. Not a good idea. Really think about what text is needed and what it's trying to achieve. We have a task, and the task today is in Google Docs. I'm moving you out of Word on purpose. in Google Docs, start creating headings for an online theory textbook for multimedia focus area theory work. So you'll see I'll post this straight away, and you'll see all your headings that you need to put in there. And you need to share the link with me via a direct message on the Edmodo group. The reason I'm not putting my email address up there or something like that is I'm posting this online, which means other people will also access it. I don't really want to be spammed by rubbish. So it has to be a direct message. You'll find your Google Docs capability in the portal, the DEC portal. So when you log into your email account, you go into the portal, you should have Google Docs as an option. Okay. Now, one final thing before you all get distracted and start doing this. The best way of approaching the multimedia theory and understanding it is, one, knowing what all these components are about and what they do, but looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each in achieving an effective product. That's really the umbrella statement. So I'll add that statement at the end of this, and I'll put the link of this presentation, the actual Google Doc presentation, on the YouTube video as well. Okay, so you've got your task, and you may as well start.